So we're going to read another story from Once Upon a Christmas Time. It's called Simon and the Snow, illustrated by sieglinde wolfsgruber, and as the story is by Gino Alberti. Okay, we're going to put the microphone down so I can hold the book. Okay. Simon lived in a little house high up in the mountains. It was the winter, and he was happy, for all of the seasons he loved winter the best. He loved snowflakes and icicles. He loved to take long rides on his sledge. And most of all, he loved to build jolly round snowmen with carrot noses. One day Simon looked around him and noticed grass growing under new buds of trees. Spring had come early. Simon was sad. He wished it would be winter forever. But that night, as Simon lay sleeping, the air turned cold again. Softly, it began to snow. The garden was covered in white. The windows were speckled with frost. As soon as Simon woke up, he noticed something was different. He ran to the window and looked out in wonder at the snow. The winter had come back again. It was as if his wish had come true. "The snow is back! The snow is back!" he cried out joyfully. He put his woolly hat in mittens and ran outside to begin his whole family of snowmen. His mother gave him some carrots for the noses and some straw for their arms. Simon was very happy. The next day was even colder. As soon as he was up, Simon went to play with his snow family. But what had happened? He ran from one snowman to the next. The twig arms, the carrot noses were all gone. Who could have done such a thing? There was no time to think, for Simon's mother was calling him to breakfast. Later, as Simon fetched some new noses and arms from the kitchen, he made a plan. That night the sky was so clear you could count the stars while his mother slept. Simon wrapped up warmly, collected his cat moots, and climbed out through the window. Together they trudged through the snow until they came to a very tall tree. "Here's a good place," said Simon as he climbed up, and Moots followed. They were cold and frightened, but even if they had to stay up there all night, they would catch the thieves. For a long while, everything was still. Then suddenly Simon saw something move. Gathering up his courage, he climbed down the tree and hid behind the snowmen. He could hardly believe his eyes. All kinds of animals were coming out from the forest, and they were greedily eating everything that they could from the snowmen. Simon could see that the poor animals were very thin and hungry, and the return of winter had buried their food underneath the deep snow. He quickly took a couple of steps toward them, but the animals ran away in fright. Later that morning, Simon told his mother what had happened. "The poor animals are starving," she said. She gave him a basket of hay to take to them. Simon carried the basket to the edge of the forest. The animals gazed at him hungrily. "Don't be frightened," Simon whispered. Very slowly, a little deer dared to come forward. Then the other animals saw it as safe. They too came from the forest. There were fawns and rabbits and stags and birds. Simon fed as many as he could, but there wasn't enough food for everyone. Then Simon had an idea. He put the basket on his back and he set off to the village. Shyly the animals followed him. The village people stopped what they were doing to watch the strange little procession making its own way down the mountain. Everyone wanted to hear Simon's story. He told them about the snowmen and how he discovered the hungry animals. The whole village wanted to help. At the entrance of a village was a grown-up, big-built feeding trough. Then all the children ran home to fetch food for the animals. Every day the children brought new supplies. There was enough for all. Soon the snow melted and the days began to grow warmer, and the smell of new grass was in the air again. Spring had come at last. This was time to stay. The animals could go back to the forest for good. From that time on, Simon still loved the winter, but now he loved the spring as well, for he knew the importance of the seasons. And that was Simon and the Snow. Okay, you twisted my arm. We'll read a penguin story. Penguin by Susie Jenkin-Pearce. Peppy was a penguin, and he lived in the zoo. He hated his concrete enclosure. He hated the way people leaned over the rails and stared at him. He hated quarreling for food at meal times. One morning Peppy looked around him, and the penguin's life is not a happy one, he thought, and he stretched his wings and sighed. That afternoon a careless little boy dropped something into Peppy's enclosure. Down, down, down it fell. It had an orange beak and a black coat and plippity-ploppity feet, just like a penguin, but it wasn't quite the same. "My name is Poppy, and I'm a toy," it said, "and one that is not loved, for my owner has wandered off and forgotten me already." "I'll be your friend, and I'll love you," said Peppy, and from that moment on the two were inseparable. One day Poppy told Peppy about Father Christmas, who had given her to the little boy. "He lives at the North Pole," she said. "There are reindeer and polar bears, and the sea is frosty and cold, and the whole land is covered in ice and snow. I'd love to see Father Christmas again. Perhaps then he could give me someone who really loved me." When Peppy thought of the land of ice and snow, his feathers began to tingle. Suddenly he knew where he belonged. "Let's fly to the North Pole," he cried. "If you want to see Father Christmas again, you shall." It was a dangerous but exciting plan. All morning Peppy did exercises to strengthen his wings. Peppy borrowed some extra feathers from a seagull, and Poppy tried to tie them to his wings, but he was ready. He climbed to the top of the penguin slide and launched himself off. Whoops! He was no use. He'd forgotten that penguins can't fly. He decided to hide in the keeper's fish bucket. "When it was taken back to the sea," said Poppy, "we can jump out and stow away on a ship." So after the next feeding time, the two friends hid in the keeper's empty bucket. Soon they were rattling along in the bag of big lorry, and the journey lasted day and a night. When the lorry finally stopped, the driver was astonished to see two small penguins leap out and run away. "Which ship for the North Pole?" cried Poppy. "Over there," replied a passing seagull. Poppy and Peppy were soon aboard and on their way across the ocean. After 3 stormy days and nights at sea, Poppy noticed that the air was turning colder. Peppy looked through a porthole. There was lumps of ice floating on the sea. "We're here!" he cried. Poppy climbed on Peppy's back and clung on tightly when he bravely leaped from the porthole. Nothing could stop them now. The two friends swam ashore. "I'll have to go," said Poppy tearfully, and her little beak quivered. "I must catch Father Christmas before he sets off on Christmas Eve." "Goodbye and good luck," said Peppy. "Sadly, I'll miss you." Peppy wandered off. He loved the feeling of the smooth, cold snow in his toes and the cool, fresh air under his wings. Very soon he was met by some polar bears. "Good afternoon, friends," he said politely. "Can you tell me where the penguins live?" "Penguins? Penguins!" cried the polar bears in their deep, loud voices. "What are penguins?" "I'm a penguin," Peppy proudly said. The polar bears looked him up and down. "We've never seen anything like you before," they said. Peppy began to cry. "But I know penguins live in the land of ice and snow," he moaned. The polar bears just laughed at him and wandered off into the white mist. Now Peppy felt very lost and alone. Hours passed by, but Peppy could see nothing but the great white waste that was stretched on forever. All of a sudden he could hear a sound, a lovely jingle sound like little bells. And there, through the mist, came Father Christmas on his sleigh. And best of all, Poppy was sitting right beside him, waving. Father Christmas gently lifted Peppy aboard his sleigh. "You are right. Penguins do come from the land of ice and snow," he said. "But they live at the South Pole, not the North Pole. I'll take you there." It's having a hard time separating the page here, people. Father Christmas drove his reindeer across the wintry sky over the sea and far away. As they drove over the zoo, Peppy could see all his friends in the enclosure. "They never will leave that frosty sea and feel cold Arctic wind under their wings," he said sadly. "If only they could come too." "And so they shall," replied Father Christmas. "For on that Christmas Eve he can make wishes come true." Father Christmas flew his sleigh into the enclosure, and every penguin, from the biggest to the smallest, climbed aboard, and off into the sky and across the world they flew to the South Pole. All the penguins of the South Pole had gathered to welcome them, as if they knew they were coming. "Here is your real home," said Father Christmas. He gave each penguin a special present. "And this is your real home, too," he said to Poppy, "for I think you have found someone who really loves you." And he was gone. And that was Poppy the Penguin. There's 2 Christmas stories for you from this beautiful Once Upon a Christmas Time book. And more to come. Just wanted to share 2 more stories with you.